Every time God said, "Do not be afraid," a girl sits on a low wooden stool in a one-room house in a hill town nobody important has ever visited. The town is called Nazareth. The girl is mending the seam of a garment. The sun is low. The room smells like bread dough and oil from the lamp in the corner. She is maybe 14, maybe 15. Her hands move without thinking because she has done this work since she could hold thread. And then the room fills with light. Not sunlight. Something else. Something that makes her drop the cloth. Something that makes her heart slam against her ribs before her mind can catch up to what is happening. There is a voice. The voice says her name. And then the voice says 3 words that have been said to terrify people since the beginning of time. Do not be afraid. You have heard this phrase your entire life. You have seen it on coffee mugs and bumper stickers in the back of church bulletins. You have heard preachers say it with soft voices and worship leaders sing it with hands raised. You might have even heard someone tell you that God says these words 365 times in the Bible, one for every day of the year. They are wrong. The number is not 365. The number is smaller, much smaller, and that is not the point. The point is not how many times God says it. The point is who he says it to and when. God does not say, "Do not be afraid" to people having a bad day. He does not say it to people who are mildly concerned or slightly worried or having trouble sleeping. He says it to people whose knees are shaking, to people whose breath has stopped, to people who are standing at the edge of something so terrifying they cannot see past it. He says it to a girl in a one-room house who is about to carry the Son of God in her body and does not know if it will kill her or save her. He says it to an old man on a black volcanic rock in the middle of the Aegean Sea who will fall on his face before a vision so bright he cannot stand. We will get to that voice, but not yet. First, we go back, all the way back to the beginning of the fear. The first time God says, "Do not be afraid" in the Bible, he says it to a man named Abram who was standing under a sky full of stars he cannot count. Abram is afraid because he does not have a son. He is afraid because he is old. He is afraid because God has made him a promise, and years have passed, and the promise has not come true. He is afraid that he will die without a child, that his name will disappear, that everything God said to him was a lie or a dream or a mistake. And God brings him outside. God shows him the stars, and God says, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great." Not, "You're worrying too much." Not, "Calm down." Not, "Everything will be fine." Do not be afraid. I am your shield. This is the pattern. This is what God does. He does not dismiss the fear. He does not pretend the fear is not real. He steps into the fear and he says, "I am here. I am with you. I am enough." Here's what most people miss about this phrase. It is not a suggestion. It is not advice. It is not a motivational quote you cross-stitch onto a pillow. It is a command. And commands only work when the person giving them has the authority to make them true. When a lifeguard yells, "Do not be afraid" to a drowning swimmer, it only works if the lifeguard can swim. When a doctor says, "Do not be afraid" before surgery, it only works if the doctor knows what they are doing. When God says, "Do not be afraid," it works because he is God. The second time God says it, he says it to a woman who is watching her son die. Her name is Hagar. She is a slave. She is Egyptian. She has been thrown out of the household where she worked because the woman who owned her could not stand to look at her anymore. She has been given a skin of water and some bread and sent into the wilderness with her son. His name is Ishmael. The water runs out. She puts the boy under a bush because she cannot watch him die. She sits down a bow shot away, far enough that she will not have to see his face, close enough that she can hear him if he cries. And she lifts her voice and weeps. You can imagine that sound. The sound a mother makes when she has nothing left. When she has done everything she knows how to do, and it was not enough. When the only thing left is to wait for the end. And the angel of God calls to her from heaven. The angel does not ask her why she is crying. The angel does not tell her to pull herself together. The angel does not lecture her about faith or obedience or trusting God's plan. The angel says, do not be afraid, Hagar. God has heard the boy crying. And then the angel shows her a well that was there the whole time. A well she could not see because her eyes were full of tears. God does not say, do not be afraid to people who have their lives together. He says it to people who are out of options, to people who are sitting in the dirt with empty hands and empty water skins and no idea what happens next. The third time, he says it to Isaac, Abraham's son. Isaac is grown now, wealthy, and he is afraid because the men in the land where he is living do not like him. They do not like that his wells are deeper than theirs. They do not like that his flocks are fatter. They do not like that God is with him. And one night, God appears to Isaac and says, do not be afraid. I am the God of your father Abraham. I will be with you and bless you. Same words, different fear, same God. Do you see it yet? The fear changes. The circumstances change. The people change. But the words do not change. And the one who speaks them does not change. The Hebrew word for fear in most of these passages is yar. It does not just mean being scared. It means standing in awe with shaking knees. It means the kind of fear that takes your breath, the kind that makes your heart forget how to beat properly, the kind that tells you that you're small and the thing in front of you is very, very large. And into that fear, God speaks, not because the fear is not real, but because he is more real. By the time we get to Moses, the fear has reached a new level entirely. Moses is standing at the edge of the Red Sea with 2 million people behind him and the entire Egyptian army in front of him. The people are screaming. They're saying they should have stayed slaves. They're saying Moses has led them out into the desert to die. And Moses says to them, do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. Moses does not say it because the danger is not real. The danger is very real. The Egyptians are close enough that you can see the sun glinting off their spears, close enough that you can hear the chariot wheels on the sand. Moses says it because God is about to do something no one has ever seen before. And you know what happens next. The sea splits. The people walk through on dry ground. The water stands up like walls on both sides. And when the last Israelite is through, the water falls. And the army that wanted to drag them back into slavery drowns. This is what do not be afraid means. It does not mean nothing bad will happen. It does not mean you will not walk through something terrifying. It means God will be with you when you do. By the time we get to Joshua, the fear has changed again. Joshua is Moses' successor. He has to lead Israel after the greatest leader they have ever known is dead. And Joshua has just lost a battle. a small battle against a small city called Ai. 36 of his men are dead, and the people are afraid, and Joshua is afraid. And God says to Joshua, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up against Ai. This is the fear of failure, the fear that you are not enough, that you cannot do what you have been called to do. And God does not say you did not fail. God does not say it was not your fault. God says, do not be afraid. Try again. I am with you. But it gets stranger. Sometimes God does not say, do not be afraid because you are in danger. Sometimes he says it because you have seen him. Gideon is threshing wheat in a wine press. He is hiding. And the angel of the Lord appears to him and says, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Gideon does not feel like a mighty warrior. Gideon feels like a man hiding in a hole, beating wheat with a stick. But Gideon talks to the angel, and the angel performs a sign. Fire comes out of a rock and consumes the offering Gideon has laid out. And Gideon realizes he has been speaking face to face with the angel of the Lord. And Gideon is terrified because in his tradition, seeing God means death. And the Lord says to him, peace, do not be afraid. You will not die. This is a different kind of fear, not fear of circumstances, not fear of enemies, fear of the holy, fear of standing too close to something so pure and so powerful that your bones should turn to ash. The historian Josephus wrote about this in his Antiquities of the Jews. He said the Jewish people understood that the divine presence was not safe, that it was not a comfortable thing, that encountering God was like standing at the edge of a cliff in a windstorm. And yet, God keeps stepping toward people. And when they fall on their faces in terror, he says, do not be afraid. Centuries pass. Empires rise and fall. The voice of God goes silent for 400 years. And then a girl sits on a low wooden stool in a one-room house in Nazareth. You remember her. We started with her. Now we come back. The angel says to her, do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. Mary is terrified, not just because an angel is standing in her house, but because of what the angel says next. You will conceive and give birth to a son. He will be called the Son of the Most High. Mary is maybe 14. She is not married yet. And if she turns up pregnant before the wedding, the law is clear. She can be stoned. She can be put away. She can be shamed for the rest of her life. And the angel says, do not be afraid. Mary has every reason to be afraid. The angel is asking her to risk everything. Her reputation, her future, her life. And Mary says, yes, she says, I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. Stay with me. Because the same night Jesus is born, God says it again. There are shepherds in the field outside Bethlehem. They are watching their flocks. It is night. It is cold. And the sky rips open. An angel appears. And the glory of the Lord shines around them. Not lamplight, not moonlight. Glory. The kind of light that should not exist. The kind of light that makes you realize how dark everything else has been. And the shepherds are terrified. The Greek word Luke uses here is phobos megas, great fear. The kind of fear that stops your heart. And the angel says, do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. This is the pattern you cannot miss. God does not say, do not be afraid to people who have earned it. He says it to people who need it, to slaves and cowards and failures and nobodies, to people the world has forgotten or never noticed in the first place. 30 years pass. Jesus is grown now. He is gathering disciples. And one night, Jesus sends them across the Sea of Galilee in a boat. While they are rowing, a storm comes, not a small storm, the kind that makes grown men who have fished their entire lives think they're about to die. The waves are high, the wind is against them, and it is dark. And then they see something, a figure, walking on the water, and they scream, because whatever that is, it is not human. They think it is a ghost. They think it is death coming for them. And Jesus says, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." The same words in the middle of the storm. When the boat is sinking and the wind is screaming and every instinct is telling them they are going to drown. "Do not be afraid. I am here." Peter says, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." And Jesus says, "Come." And Peter steps out of the boat. And for a few steps, he walks on water. He does the impossible thing. And then Peter looks at the waves. He looks at the wind. He remembers that what he is doing is impossible. And he starts to sink. And he cries out, "Lord, save me." And immediately, Jesus reaches out his hand and catches him. This is what "do not be afraid" looks like in the middle of the storm. It does not mean the storm stops. It means Jesus is in the storm with you. And when you start to sink, his hand is already reaching. Now watch what happens next. 3 years later, Jesus is dead, crucified on a Roman cross outside Jerusalem, buried in a borrowed tomb. And on the third day, women come to the tomb. They come at dawn. They are bringing spices to anoint his body. They are not expecting anything except grief. But when they get there, the stone is rolled away. And there's an angel sitting on the stone, dressed in white. And the angel says to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Do not be afraid. He is not here. He has risen." This is the moment. This is the fear that changes everything. Not fear of death, not fear of failure, fear of hope. Fear that the impossible thing might actually be true. The women run from the tomb, afraid and filled with joy. Both things at once. And then Jesus himself meets them and he says, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." Here's the part nobody tells you. Between the resurrection and the second coming, there is one more "do not be afraid." One final time, God says it. And it is the most important one. 60 years after the resurrection, there's an old man on an island. The island is called Patmos. It is a Roman prison island, a rock in the middle of the Aegean Sea where Rome sends people it wants to forget. The old man's name is John, the same John who leaned against Jesus at the Last Supper, the same John who stood at the foot of the cross, the same John who ran to the empty tomb and believed. He is old now, in his 90s. Everyone else is dead. Peter is dead. Paul is dead. James is dead. John is the last one left. And he has been exiled to this island because he will not stop talking about Jesus. And one day, on the Lord's day, John hears a voice behind him, a voice like a trumpet. And he turns and he sees Jesus, not the Jesus he knew 60 years ago, not the carpenter from Nazareth with dusty feet and kind eyes. This Jesus is different. His face shines like the sun. His eyes are like blazing fire. His feet are like bronze glowing in a furnace. His voice is like the sound of rushing waters. This is Jesus in his glory. Jesus as he truly is. Jesus without the veil of human flesh to make him easier to look at. And John falls at his feet like a dead man. John has seen angels. John has seen the transfiguration. John has seen the risen Christ. But this is too much. This is the kind of glory that should kill you. And Jesus places his right hand on John, and he says the same words he has said to every terrified person since Abraham. Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now, look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Do not be afraid, not because John is safe, not because the exile will end, not because the suffering will stop. Jesus says, do not be afraid because he holds the keys, because death is not the end, because the worst thing that can happen to you is not the final thing. Do you see it now? The phrase appears all through Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, from Abraham to John, from a man staring at stars to an old man staring at the glorified Christ. The fears change, the circumstances change, the people change, but the one who says, do not be afraid, never changes. And he is still saying it. People have counted how many times God says, do not be afraid in the Bible. They will tell you it is 365, one for every day of the year. They are wrong. The phrase appears roughly 80 to 100 times, depending on which translation you read. And it is not about the number. It is about the moment. God does not say, do not be afraid on your good days. He says it when you are at the Red Sea with an army behind you. He says it when you are in a wilderness with an empty water skin. He says it when an angel appears in your room. He says it when you are on a boat in a storm. He says it when you are standing at an empty tomb. He says it when you fall on your face before him. He says it when you need it most. And here is what you need to take with you from this. First, your fear does not disqualify you. Every person in this story was afraid. Abraham was afraid. Hagar was afraid. Moses was afraid. Mary was afraid. The disciples were afraid. John was afraid. And God spoke to all of them. You think your fear means you do not have enough faith. You think it means you are weak. You think it means God cannot use you. But look at the people he chose. He chose the terrified ones, the shaking ones, the ones who could barely breathe. Your fear does not disqualify you. It qualifies you because God does his best work with people who know they cannot do it alone. Second, do not be afraid is not a feeling. It is a command. You cannot always control how you feel. You cannot flip a switch and stop being afraid, but you can choose to obey anyway. You can choose to step out of the boat even though the waves are high. You can choose to say yes even though you do not know what happens next. Do not be afraid does not mean you will never feel fear. It means you do not have to let fear make the decision. Mary was afraid when the angel appeared, but she said yes. Peter was afraid when he started to sink, but he cried out. John was afraid when he saw the glorified Christ, but he got up and wrote the vision down. They were afraid, and they obeyed anyway. And third, the one who says, do not be afraid is the one who defeated death. This is not a motivational speaker telling you to believe in yourself. This is not a life coach telling you to think positive thoughts. This is the voice of the one who walked out of a tomb, the one who holds the keys of death and Hades, the one who said, I am the resurrection and the life, and then proved it. When he says, do not be afraid, he has earned the right to say it because he has already walked through the worst thing that can happen. He has already died, and death could not hold him. And if death cannot hold him, then nothing can hold you that he cannot break. So, whatever you are afraid of right now, I want you to hear this. God sees you. He knows the fear. He is not surprised by it. He is not disappointed. And he is saying to you what he has said to every person who has ever been afraid and called on his name. Do not be afraid. I am with you. I was dead, and now I am alive forever. And I hold the keys. The storm does not have the keys. Your circumstances do not have the keys. Your past does not have the keys. Your failures do not have the keys. Death does not have the keys. He does. And he is saying to you right now, in whatever storm you are in, whatever wilderness you are walking through, whatever empty tomb you are staring at, wondering if hope is real, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one, and I am with you. If this has meant something to you, if you have felt something shift in you while listening to this, I want to ask you to do two things. First, leave a comment and tell me what you are afraid of. You do not have to use your real name. You do not have to share details. Just say it. Write it down. Sometimes naming the fear is the first step to not letting it control you anymore. And second, share this with someone who needs to hear it. You know who they are. The person who is barely holding on. The person who is standing at their Red Sea. The person who is afraid and does not know if they can take another step. Send this to them. Let them know they are not alone. Because that is what do not be afraid means. It does not mean you will not face hard things. It means you will not face them alone. God has been saying this for 4,000 years, from Abraham to John, from Genesis to Revelation, from the beginning of fear to the end of death, and he is still saying it. Do not be afraid. I am with you.